Good day. I'm Rhea Gordoves, and together with Jewel Moa and Ricardo Honson, we will tackle or envision financially inclusive Quezon City by 2050. To start, we envision a 2050 where Quezon City, in partnership with UP and SEPAG, will have a stronger financial stability, availability of options for investment and borrowing opportunities, and improved protection from financial fraud. All these, in return, if implemented transparently and effectively, could dramatically lessen the great disparity between the rich and the poor. We also envision that the city will have ease of access, especially for the marginalized, who must be the targeted beneficiaries of programs to reduce poverty incidence here in the Philippines. By doing so, plans such as efforts to increase loaning and inclusion opportunities, educating all citizens on the benefits of the program, and reducing incidents of red tape should be undertaken. These are just some plans that the group envisions, but to discuss the specific goals and plans for a decade, here's Jewel Moa reporting the 2021 to 2029 agendas.
To start off, I'll be laying out to you the start and end of the year goals for this decade. So during the start of the year, the organization must have the collection and establishment of the summary that contains the assessment and feedback of the status, progress, and concerns that are within the matter of the past and ongoing financial inclusion program and policy of Quezon City. So this is done in order for the organization to know what are the things that they need to address and prioritize. So next is during the end of the year. This is where the organization must have the finalization of the construction of their strategic and action plan that involves the policies and programs that we'll be using during the next decade. So some of the program and policies within this year should also be already in the progress of implementation. So that is where the plans that was made during the start of the year will be of use. So next, I'll be discussing the objectives for this decade. So first is that the organization needs to establish a monthly basis collection of feedback and consultation with the local community. Next is getting an approval and suggestions from the organization, professionals, and other local governments that is regarding the ongoing possible financial inclusion program and policy. So the first two objectives is done in order to further improve and strengthen the system because they are also considered as stakeholders for the programs and policies that are to be implemented. So next is establishing a relationship with the public. So the public includes the people, institutions, professionals, private businesses, other local governments, and many other more stakeholders that can contribute into being a untapped connection and resource that might be of help for the current and future financial inclusion and plans. So next is establishing a temporary project schedule or timeline that involves the step-by-step objectives of the progress per program and policy. So this is to see if the plan that the organization already has set is, as said, effective and efficient as it should be, or if there are still areas and variables that the organization needs to address and improve on. So lastly is that there is a need to start some of the planned policy and programs such as the educational discussions with the marginalized on such programs that will prioritize their needs and highlight their rights as citizens of the city. So these objectives will be done all throughout the 2021 and 2029. So for this next part, I'll be discussing the different ideal effects for the decade. So that is if the action plan, objectives, and goals for this decade will be going as planned or will go as planned. So for the first part, we'll be having connectivity. So there should be a slow increase in the number of citizens that will gain access to connectivity, internet connectivity, that which enables them to establish connections and will allow them to attain data, news, and etc., that will help them engage more into the local community. So next is we have economy. So QC citizens will be able to receive financial inclusion that will help them suffice their daily needs, and with that, this also allows them to have more opportunities as well in being able to start their own small businesses or even invest in other businesses. So next, we have the environment. So in this part, there's the establishment of a healthy relationship between the Quezon City local government, private businesses, other organizations, and citizens, as their call for financial inclusion is being addressed. So with this, there could be a possible establishment of parks, livelihood centers, libraries, and museums that also promotes the deterioration of disparity among the rich and poor. Going to the next part, we have the sector of health and well-being. So this is where the mental health and lives of QC residents will also improve, as the people will be slowly relieved from their financial burden as their financial needs are being addressed. So there will be an allotted budget and program that aims to support the mental health and other health related needs such as medical assistance, insurance, and many other more. So next is the homes and community. So in this part, QC residents will be able to have a better home and community, as there will be a housing loan and assistance program established. So ensuring that every QC citizen can afford and be part of the government's housing project. So as this is being established, less QC residents will be at the risk of being able to live in the areas that puts their health into danger, such as living near the rivers that puts into risk their houses being flooded and getting dengue and many other more. So next is the learning and skills. So in this part, as citizens are slowly being educated, along the way, they will learn how to be more accountable with their spendings that will help them explore ways in gaining more opportunities in achieving financial stability and growth. So there will also be an education program that will be given to the citizens who wish to start, continue, and finish a course or degree. So that is it for the ideal effects per sector. So moving on, for the next and last part for this decade, I'll be discussing the action points, which contains a more detailed definition of the step-by-step plan that the organization will be doing in order to achieve the goals and objectives for this decade. So we first have the regular establishment of a sensing program to know who are the citizens and which barangays are in need of urgent aid. So this is to monitor and assess if the barangays or the citizens in that particular area are in need of more inclusion, and if the barangays are also doing their part in being able to deliver the benefits of QC residents. So in this whole process, this is also an exercise for accountability and transparency. So next is establishment of deals, policy, and programs with the organizations that can contribute to achieve the goal of the QC LGU in attaining financial inclusion for all. So this part is being able to open the untapped resources that the LGU of QC is able to establish, technically maximizing and utilizing the resources that they have in order to further boost and improve the policy and programs that the organization has. So next is we have another execution of the utilization of resources, such as the usage of technology to disseminate information and benefits of future programs and policies that are to be implemented. So as of now, we already have the platforms such as GCash and the bank transaction. So maybe in the future, there are many other ways to make it easier for the citizens to actually receive their benefits. So next is establishing of the qualifications and screening of citizens who are fit to participate in the program that will be leveled depending on their income and lifestyle. So in this part, this is technically trimming down the people who are in need of financial inclusion. So for the last action point is we have the process of organizing the list of prioritization in the projects that will be allocated to families with low to no income. So this part will come right really after being able to trim down the people who are fit to join the program. So the organization needs to do this in order to know who are the citizens who needs to get assisted right away with their financial needs. So this is actually it for the plans for this decade. So moving on, we'll be having a discussion for years 2030 until 2040. So this is another layout of the plans, objectives, and action points that we will be establishing.
For years 2030 to 2040, our goal is to continue the implementation of the 2021 to 2029 financial inclusion, but now with amendments and improvements to further have an inclusive program where at least 80% of the marginalized will be covered. The objectives include 1. To improve the accountability mechanisms of the 2021 to 2029 financial program. 2. Is to cover all the lapses encountered in the prior implementation of the program. And 3. Is to have a continual educational discussions with the marginalized on such programs that will prioritize their needs and highlight their rights as citizens of the city. Since technology vastly develops nowadays, we envision that within 2030 to 2040, all the programs offered by the LGU will be remotely accessible to all members of the community through their social media website and/or pages. By being remotely accessible, this gives an ease of access to citizens who will be more and more internet dependent, given that we're now living under the new normal. We also envision that assistance for small business owners will be intensified by providing higher incentives and/or percentage, and that citizens who have no capacity to create or build their own businesses will be given basic capital that would be enough to build their own businesses, such as a small sari-sari store. For the environmental perspective, since we target to lessen the difference between the rich and the poor, we envision that more areas that were initially informal settlements will be turned into parks, livelihood centers, libraries, museums, and the like. For the health perspective, we plan to have a monthly program on mental health issues and other prevailing health matters and relate these programs to the financial assistance that the government could provide. More assistance and prioritization will be given to citizens who have comorbidities or other severe illnesses. However, this does not mean that financial assistance for health concerns are limited and selected to some only. For homes and communities perspective, as aforementioned in the environmental perspective, that since we target smaller disparity between the rich and the poor, housing loans and assistance will be made available for informal settlers who are forced to evacuate from their settlements. These citizens will be placed in a quality yet affordable housing projects of the local government, and their housing will be determined based on their livelihood so as they could continue working on their sources of income. Lastly, for learning and skills, educational assistance must be given to citizens who wishes to pursue vocational courses or re-entering school. This investment of scholars will greatly benefit not only the city but also the country by possibly increasing the literacy rate and employment rate in the future. Certainly, it will also help the scholars to build a brighter future through quality and accessible education. All these could be achieved if 1. The advantages of social media to disseminate information about the programs will be maximized. 2. Red tape and corruption will be avoided through having ease in transactions. 3. incentives will be given to those who save the most capital for the year. Fourth, prioritization of citizens will be made depending on their income, lifestyle, and belief. However, the program will remain inclusive in terms of who can avail of the benefits. 5. Greater percentage and prioritization in projects will be allocated to families with low to no income. 6. Partnerships with the national government and private sectors will be maintained for the continuum of the project. And lastly, monthly budget track shall be posted via the LGU social media accounts for accountability and transparency purposes. For our 2041 to 2050 vision, here is Ricardo Hanson to report.
I am Ricardo A. Hanson Jr. and for 2041 to 2050, our goal is to envision QC to be the global model of financial inclusion in terms of regulation, stability, integrity, and consumer protection. Our objectives are: first, to normalize access to financial inclusion projects to all levels in the society. This should work as a primary setup for financial transactions. Next is to ensure 100% protection access to financial inclusion programs with full confidence from its consumers. Next is to have a stable financial status to all levels of the society. Everyone should be free from financial burden. Then, to have a well-defined financial inclusion processes, a polished public policy program with globally acceptable processes and guidelines, and to continue the sustainable financial inclusion projects in the next years and generations to come. In terms of connectivity, there should be regularity in terms of financial account usage that is considered basic to every individual. There should be access to global financial accounts regardless of a financial status. Quezon City financial inclusion programs to have strong financial integrity. There is an optimum confidence to different levels of financial programs and services. Cashless transactions and credit information system that are fully protected, free from fraud, identity theft, scams, and hacks. QC financial inclusion projects to promote a fully socialized financial institution, strong and regulated financial environment, fully controlled to sustain financial needs. A sustainable financial communities that are free from debt with minimum risk, minimum cost for all ranges of financial services that is accessible globally. The availability of knowledge on financial inclusion practices, non-existence of informal lenders, dirty money, and abusive lending services. All financial institutions must be registered and regulated by the government. Institutions to have a well-defined processes and guidelines without loopholes for abuse. Creating a system that will show complete records of all financial activities to ensure transparency. Information and education dissemination to ensure protection and knowledge on financial stability. Seminars, workshops, and other programs to enhance capability of the people in maximizing the program. In the government sector, capacity building seminars to enhance the financial stability and to add ideals and practices in the field. Partnerships with stakeholders to promote social responsibility on financial inclusion services towards sustainability in accordance to development goals.
That's all for our report. Thank you for listening and towards sustainable city and development for all.